All right, guys, I have time today, so we're about to have a conversation about how the woke community is toxic. Okay, so where do I even begin? Hi. So I just got home from work because, I do have a job and a life and other things that I do. I work full time. And I've been going back. I've been waiting all day, honestly, to say this because I've been going back and forth with the same people. Let me actually unpack. I'm about to eat a snack, by the way. Because I'm honestly about to keep it a buck. And the thing is, I don't like arguing on the internet. I don't like back and forth. I don't like, just petty people. But today I have time and I'm just going to address it because overall I feel like these people are proving my point. They're proving exactly what I was saying about the woke community becoming toxic and being racist. And I just really think that's what happens. And I feel like it's the mentality. The mentality behind being woke is basically essentially hating white people, hating whiteness. I never thought I would have to argue why oh y'all, look at this gray hair. Look at that wisdom. Oh my gosh, it disappeared. Yo, and it's a long gray hair. You know what? I'm just gonna be thankful for gray hair because that means I have wisdom. Anyways, let's get into it. I'm actually hot. Very hot right now. And I kind of regret putting this sweatshirt on, but it's whatever. So let me go. Oops. Let me go to YouTube and read the comments so that y'all can understand what I'm talking about. So I made a video. Well, I made a couple of videos. The first one was how the woke community turned into racist. And then another one basically called where I talked about growing up, whitewash, stereotypes, microaggressions more, and was clarifying my stance. Because essentially I'm being attacked for saying I don't hate white people, which I think is crazy, for just saying I'm not racist. It's weird. It's actually weird. And I just want to make something very clear. I'm not putting myself on a pedestal. I'm not saying I'm this insanely good person. I'm just saying I don't see the point in literally hating an entire group of people. And I also don't think racism justifies you being racist, which is essentially what the woke community argues. It's okay for you to be racist towards white people because white people were racist first, essentially, is the argument y'all make. And I'm just saying, like, that makes you a hypocrite. It's dumb. It's a dumb reason. It's a very dumb, childish, I think, way to just view the world. And also, it just, in my opinion, makes you know better. It's okay if I'm racist towards a group of people because they were racist towards me first. Okay. That's what y'all want to argue. Okay. And honestly, I really don't care that people don't agree with my opinion. I've constantly made opinions that people don't agree with. I can live with you not liking what I have to say, with you not agreeing what I have to say. But it's funny how when someone doesn't agree with you, the first thing they do is, instead of attacking what I said, they're attacking me as a person. So that's kind of crazy. I didn't actually see. Okay, too much is happening right now. Let me get my thoughts together. Also, I just want to clarify something too. Nothing that I'm saying is supposed to be this extremely well thought out argument. I'm literally just sharing my thoughts and opinions on something. If I wrote it down, best believe, um, when I write down my thoughts, they are very well articulated. So when I argue, usually when I'm responding to a comment, I'm able to clarify things a lot better than when I'm just talking, because this is literally just random chit chat, random thoughts, a random chit chat. I'm not making this like a professional attack. This is my professional opinion. I'm just sharing my thoughts. So I got this response from somebody basically who either misunderstood my entire point, because, and I really just think, obviously my opinion bothers people. My opinion ruffled some feathers. Apparently I'm not allowed to believe it's wrong to be racist towards other people. And I just think it really just comes from people having a very toxic mentality to begin with. I feel like when you're so focused on racism in the world and you're constantly bombarded with all of these examples of racism, past, present racism, um, and that's all of the information you're taking in. I understand why people get to the point where they hate white people. And I'm saying that because I used to be in that mindset, basically. I used to be very woke. I used to be very like a social justice warrior, essentially, constantly arguing about things. And I feel like I kind of grew out of that because I realized it was a very toxic space. And it's also it's basically the lens. It's the, what am I trying to say? When I was in the social justice warrior space, headspace, and I was constantly reading article after article of all of these racial injustices happening in the world, and I was consuming all of those things on a constant basis, it created a bias. It created this idea that the world is full of nothing but racist, ignorant people. And it made the problem of racism seem huge, you know? There's so much racism happening in the world. And you get that because you're literally you're focusing on it. You're focusing on all of the racism in the world. And the more you focus on all of the racism in the world, the more you're going to believe the world is full of nothing but racist people. And it's toxic because it's not necessarily true. You know, biases are created by a number of things, but when you're readily consuming nothing but articles of racist experiences or looking through, you know, archives of past racial injustices, you're going to feel some type of way. It's going to create a emotional response because obviously the racial injustices people were facing are horrible. It's horrendous. People used to be lynched. People used to be treat people horribly. You know. Oh, there's like a hair in my mouth. Gross. But anyways, it's understandable. It's understandable when you're consuming nothing but these emotionally charged articles that basically are going to make you angry. They're going to make you angry. They're going to make you upset. And I feel like Facebook was very toxic for me for that reason. I don't use Facebook for that reason because I remember even like back in 2016 or 2017, it was like every story on Facebook was like a black teen was killed by a cop, this something, and I was always angry about it because people don't realize I have a heart. I'm a very empathetic person. If I see or know of an injustice happening in the world, I'm obviously going to be upset about that. I'm not going to argue that that's okay. But what I had to realize is that there was a lot of emotional manipulation also happening because people were bringing up old articles of things that happened years ago and then making that the news. And it was like these things are not recent. They weren't as recent as they were making it seem like, but now you have people being upset and talking about this thing, and it's just like there's so many horrible things happening in the world. Yes, race racism is a problem still, but I feel like it's as big of a problem as you make it. And when I say that, please understand that I'm talking about if you are focused on finding all of the racism in the world, you will find it and you'll start to believe that racism is the biggest issue. But if you focused on all of the loving, great, not racist people in the world, you'll have a different mindset. What you focus on controls how you view the world and how you see the world. So if I wanted to look for all of the racism in the world, I could easily find it. I could find story after story of racism that is happening on a daily basis if I wanted to, if I was focusing on finding that problem. But the problem is you're you're looking for it. There's a bias there. You're looking for something to be racist. You're trying to find all of the racism happening in the world. And so you're making it a bigger issue for yourself by seeking it out to begin with. So that's what I'm saying. How many black people have personally experienced racism in their life? And it's like a lot of people have, but do you experience it on a daily basis? Is it something where every day you're dealing with a racist person? If you are, you know, that's not a great thing. That's a hard thing to deal with. I wouldn't wish that on someone. That's definitely would change how you view and think about the world for sure. But I honestly think the problem of racism currently I feel like is more of there's a focus on it. There's a focus on it. You're seeking it out. You're trying to find it. You're trying to find the problem. And it's creating this idea of it being this worldwide issue. And I don't know how else to say it in a better way. It's just like if you focus on racism, racism will always be a huge problem because you're focusing on it. But I don't choose to look for racism in the world on a daily basis anymore because I felt like it was a very toxic thing, and it also will lead to you viewing white people, hating white people, and thinking every white person is racist. And I feel like that's the problem that I'm actually calling out. I'm calling out that the mindset of wokeness creates the idea or the concept of racism being this problem that is infused into the entire social structure of the world. Basically, like, racism is in everything. Everything's racist. Everybody's racist. Racism is more prevalent now than it ever was before. Is basically kind of the mindset you come to when you are participating in the woke culture. And I just found it very toxic for myself, for my mental health. And one thing, like I said, I don't like double standards. I have to believe in things objectively. Like I said, I don't care if you don't agree with me. If you want to hate all white people, I obviously can't stop you from doing that. I'm just calling it out as being ignorant, hypocritical, and literally all you're doing is mirroring the racism, the same behavior that you're claiming to hate. You are now becoming the very thing you claim to hate. If you think being racist towards white people is justified because white people were racist towards black people, so it's okay for me to be racist, like, all you're doing is the exact same thing some white people were doing. And a reason why I say some, because everybody isn't racist. Everybody isn't racist. I also don't think the woke community represents the entire black community. I personally separate it. There are things I love about black culture, the black community in general. I feel like there's so many positive aspects of it, but because I call out some of the negative things, y'all act like I hate black people or I hate blackness. I think it's really more about, I don't see people for their race. I just feel like people regardless of their race, there's amazing people that exists within every race. There's people, it's just like, I don't know. I truly just don't understand, or I guess I truly just don't want to be a person that is using race to judge every person around me. I judge people for their actions, for their character, for their words. How you treat people says a lot about you. And I personally, honestly, received more ugly, hateful, spiteful comments from other black people than I have. Like, y'all, I've gotten more hate from people in the black community than from other races. And they're the ones telling me, well, just wait, all these racist people, the only people being racist and hateful towards me is other black people right now. At least if you look at the comments of my videos. I'm not being attacked by anyone but other black people. So, I don't know. And this is why, like I said, I just don't use race as a way to characterize people. I'm not going to assume someone is racist. I'm not going to assume I don't assume the worst in people. And at the end of the day, that's a mindset you have because you're consuming nothing but negative media. And it's going to create that negative mindset. It's going to create the bias. It's going to create, believing that every person is racist, or that every other group of people is just as racist. I don't know. It's just very toxic, in my opinion. And I feel like all the hateful comments I've received, all they're proving is that what I said was correct. You're proving my point. Um, and because I'm saying you don't have to hate white people to be against racism. That's actually my point. I don't know why you would have an issue with that other than you just hate white people, but you don't have to hate white people to hate racism. That's my point. I don't think I have to hate an entire group of people. And it's not because I see white people as being like superior than anybody else. I personally really don't care that much about, I don't know. I just don't use race as a way to like group people. I don't discriminate. I don't care. I would be friends with anyone because I'm not judging people by the color of their skin. How you treat me, how you talk to people, are you a good person? Like that's just how the world should be. But y'all are so divisive. Like I said, the woke community literally is just creating more division. That's all it's doing. Anyways, there was something else I wanted to say. Oh, I wanted to share something because I think this is funny and it's also relevant. I personally have had, don't come at me for saying this. This is my personal experience. I'm just telling you this is what I've experienced. I Oh my gosh. And I'm not saying I'm gonna say this, but I also feel like it's gonna sound worse than what I mean it to be. Most of my worst bosses most of my worst bosses were black women. And when I say this, please mean I don't think ill of black women in general. I am a black woman. This is what I'm saying. I'm not going to judge people according to their race or gender. I'm going to consider people based off of how they treat me. I've been treated worse by black female bosses than by white male bosses. My favorite bosses thus far have mostly been white males. Now, I'm not saying because they are white males, they're better bosses. I'm just saying from my own personal experience, the most caring, the most giving, the most understanding bosses that I've had were white males. My supervisor, and there was a white woman named Amy that was my manager. Sweetest woman, made me banana bread. This is why I'm saying, like, it's not that I'm looking to say, you know, I'm just saying, like, you can't literally just prejudge and predetermine someone is going to be a horrible person based off of a prejudice or a bias or an assumption. Judge people according to how they treat you and their character. I've had great experiences with a lot of white people. That's why I don't live my life, assuming every white person is racist. I've had bad experiences. I talked about the microaggressions I've had. I've grown up being a literal minority most of my life, surrounded by people who don't look like me. It's why I can be comfortable regardless of what room I'm in, because I've just learned not to assume or group people or judge people based off of how they look. It doesn't mean every white person is a great person it's just like, stop stop grouping people, honestly. Like, the more you try to like just group people and divide people and assume characteristics about people, it just shows that you're very ignorant in a lot of ways. But anyways, back to my bosses. My bosses at when I used to work at Zaxby's, I had two bosses, both white men. They absolutely loved me. They were constantly giving me raises. I was a good employee, right? I also had a Hispanic boss. He was amazing as well. Basically, it's just like I worked in very diverse spaces so that I'm not ignorant. I'm not ignorant and I'm not small minded and I'm not closed minded because I've actually surrounded myself with people who don't look like me. Not because I have a problem with people who look like me. I have no problem with black people. I love black people. I love people in the black community. Especially love. I feel like black women have been some of the best people I've ever come into contact with. Like loving, sweet, caring, encouraging, amazing things. And I'm just saying, like, are those they were just good people, good people. If I believed that only certain groups of people can be good people, it's just a very, I don't know, it's just a very ignorant way to look at people in the world. Is just be like, I just believe there's good people of every race. There's good people in every community. You can't be so small-minded and closed-minded that you think if someone doesn't look like you, they're racist or they're not a good person. I just don't have that outlook on life because I've grown up in and have been surrounded by in very diverse spaces. And I love that. I'm not seeking to only be friends with a certain group of people or with a certain race of people. That's just not how I am. It's because I didn't grow up only surrounded by one group of people. So I don't know. And I wanted to share this too. I'm at a point now where I just block people. If you disturb my peace, blocked. If you're attacking me, blocked. I don't have time or energy to entertain people who are purposefully attacking me as a person, attacking my character. So I had someone on my Instagram. I posted a picture. I had gone out to dinner Saturday because my friend invited me to get margarita with her and some of my old coworkers. So from the restaurant I worked at. Now, let me just be honest with you guys. I worked with, the two girls. It's and this is why I'm saying it's like I just don't care about race the way people want me to. So I'm willing to be friends with people of any race because I just don't care. If you're a cool person, I like your personality, we get along, whatever. I'm just not racist. I'm sorry. I don't know what y'all want me to do. I guess I'm supposed to predetermine who I'm okay with being friends with based off of their race. But that's just not my mentality. So anyways, I took a picture with them, two white girls, and the other one's half Mexican, half white. But most people probably would think she's just white. So someone responded to that story because I took a picture with them and said, "Oh God, no." And I was assuming it's because I took a picture with three white looking girls. And I'm just like, for that to be a response to a stranger's story, like you have a problem with me having friends that aren't black, or me taking a picture with my friends who just happen to not be black, and you have a problem with that. I thought it was such an ignorant thing to say to someone, and I was about to respond, but I honestly just said blocked. Like, why are you responding to my story that way? And like I said, it's truly just there's so much ignorance in the world. There's so many ignorant people, because I'm okay with being friends with people who don't look like me. Apparently I've done something wrong. I have friends of all races. I don't understand it. I really just I don't understand it. I'm not going to let other people though tell me how I'm supposed to feel though about that. Like, y'all can hate me, y'all can have a problem with me, y'all can cancel me, y'all can reject my black card, uninvite me from the cookout. I don't care. I am not going to limit who I'm going to be friends with to please other people. I'm also just not going to pretend to be something that I am not. I'm not going to change the person I am to fit closer in, or so to appease people who think I'm not black enough, or I don't have enough black friends, or I'm not doing something right. It's just like, I don't care. I don't care to fit into the box some people want to put me in. So anyways, I got that very ignorant response to my story, and it made me just realize, like, some people are weird. Y'all are weird. And y'all are also just obsessed with race. At the end of the day, I'm not the one who has a problem. I'm not the one with the problem. I'm just living, enjoying my life. I don't seek out racist people. I don't surround myself with racist people. And I'm also not limiting who I'm willing to be friends with or not be friends with. I don't judge people by the color of their skin. At the end of the day, I work with majority black people in my job, and I love my coworkers. I did have that one ignorant comment that bothered me. I'm still fine with that coworker. Like, I don't have anything against him, even if I didn't agree with or like the joke that was made. But I get along with all of my coworkers. I have no issues with people. I don't know. It's like, y'all are really trying to pretend like I'm the problem for saying I don't hate people. And I find that to be actually crazy. But that's how toxic being woke is. It really is just having such a negative mindset and outlook on the world because you're so focused on negativity. And like I said before, because people can't seem to understand that, I'm not saying racism is justifiable. Racism is always wrong. If someone is treating you badly or poorly or worse because of your skin, that is always going to be wrong. Nothing justifies racism. I'm literally just calling out being a hypocrite, how hypocritical it is to be like, racism is so wrong, and all the racist stuff that white people did is so wrong, and then turn around and believe you have the right to hate white people because they were racist, because some white people were racist. And I also just hate to say this part too. I kind of already touched on this in my last video. People are holding on to the past. They're not willing to move on. They don't want to move on. They don't want to let go. They don't want to forgive. They want to hold on to all of the pain and all of the horrible things that were done. Even though they can't change it, even though it's already happened, you can't change the history of slavery, of racism, of segregation, of Jim Crow, of all of the horrible things that happened in the past because some people were racist. But y'all don't want to move past it. Y'all want to hold on to it. Why? Like, it really is just, it's a very toxic because you're holding on to things of the past and still blaming that on people who did not partake in slavery, did not partake in racism or segregation. Now, yes, there are people alive who lived through those things, you know. You know, there are old people. My grandmother grew up in a Jim Crow segregated South. I mentioned in the last video, both of my grandparents on my mom's side are from Arkansas. My granddad grew up picking cotton. And his dad, I definitely have ancestors who were slaves. I haven't really looked up my whole history, but just knowing what I know about my grandparents, my granddad grew up picking cotton. His dad was a farmer. He was getting ripped off by the farmer that he worked for because he was illiterate. He couldn't read. He couldn't count. He was getting screwed over because of the education. So much. My grandparents lived through racial injustice. They lived through segregation. And my granddad was still one of the happiest, most friendly people. This is going to make me cry because I owe a lot of my mindset to my grandfather because he loved people regardless. He had a big heart and he just loved people regardless. He would tell me stories of racism that he had, of being called the N-word, of all of this stuff. My granddad lived that experience. He dealt with racism as a child, as a young boy. And he still was probably the happiest, full of joy. He joked. He loved to laugh, full of life. And I have so much respect for my grandfather because he still loved people regardless. Anyways, any injustice, racism is not justifiable. This injustice, it's a great injustice that happened. However, I just have a different outlook and mindset on it where I don't believe complaining about it or focusing on things that happened in the past is going to does anything to help people move forward. It doesn't fix any of the problems. It doesn't change any of the problems to complain about it and to talk about it. You have to focus on what you can do. And I touched on that in my last video. So basically, I don't want to just constantly repeat myself. I'm just going to say this. At some point you have to let it go. If you want to move on with your life, if you want to move on, it's like you're going to have to be able to forgive and let go of whatever grievances, of whatever issues you have. And if you're unwilling to do that, that's what's in your heart. That's your issue. If you don't want to let go of that, if you're not willing to move forward, if you don't want to, you want to harbor these negative feelings, you want to continue to focus on what some people did in the past, even if it was the majority of white people who were being racist, which honestly, who knows? I'm not focusing on the negative. I'd rather focus on the positive and the amazing, great, non-racist people that I know and have experiences with than focus on all of the negative, hateful, spiteful people that also exist in the world. I'd rather focus on the positive. Y'all can say that's a problem if you want to. It's not that I'm ignoring the negative. I'm just choosing not to focus on it because I know that's not something I really can control or change. And you definitely don't change it by focusing on it. Um, I don't know. But at the end of the day, I don't think you move on or get better results by focusing on things that you can't change or that you can't control. So I think it would serve people a lot better to focus on the things that they can do and the things that they can control versus focusing on things in the past that already happened and you can't change. Horrible, disgusting things. Like I said, I am a very empathetic person. Reading all of these stories of segregation and racism back in the day hurts my heart. It's horrible to think of some of the things my ancestors or my grandparents had to deal with or overcome for me to get here, but I'm still grateful. And to be grateful that I'm not experiencing the same level, because some people are still acting as if we're still living in Jim Crow. Racism is literally not even close to as bad as it used to be, but some people still are acting as if we are dealing with the worst types of racism right now in 2025, when we in fact have grown and moved so much. It doesn't mean that there's still not racism or that there's still not problems, but we've come a long way. And y'all are so stuck in the past that you're not even able to appreciate how far we've come. There's still problems, yes. But just like focusing on the positive is how you can have a more forward thinking, positive outlook on life, which is what I have. I don't know. Y'all want to be hateful, y'all want to be spiteful, y'all want to hate everyone that doesn't look like you. Okay. What does that do for you? Does it make you feel better? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe for people who have that, that anger and that rage over the horrible things that happened in the past, they're using that to fuel hatred towards white people, and that might make you feel better. I think that's honestly what most people are saying is what justifies being racist or not liking white people. Well, I don't like it because blah blah, everything that happened in the past and all of these issues. It's like, okay, I'm not saying I don't understand why people get that way. I'm just saying it's a very toxic way to view the world, and it accomplishes nothing. You're just going to live your life hating an entire group of people because things some people did in the past. And the crazy thing, it's not even things that were specifically done to you. You're hating over things that someone you don't even know did to someone you also don't know. Being angry at injustice, I don't think is the problem. I'm angry at injustice and the things that happened in the past. But instead of using that anger to be hateful towards people, I decided to recognize that those things that happened in the past were horrific things, horrible things. Some people never receive justice for things that happened to them. And that sucks. That's horrible. But me being angry over something that I can't change is a horrible way to spend my life. To be angry over something that's already happened, that you can't control and that you can't change. That's why people have so much hate in their heart. They're so angry. about things that they can't control. And I honestly feel like it leads to a very mentally unstable outlook because you have so much rage and anger over an injustice that's already happened that you can't change. And I feel like nowhere to put that anger. So now it's just let's be mad about white people in the future who weren't even actively participants in that, you know. And I guess maybe I understand it comes off like I'm defending like I'm not defending racist white people. I'm just saying, like, objectively speaking, it's just this is the best analogy. I could be someone if I had an ancestor in my family who was racist and did these horrible things to people, and I just happened to be born into that family, right? You basically want the person born into that family who, themselves recognizes what their ancestors did was wrong, doesn't agree with it, is not living their life according to what their ancestors did. You are trying to blame that person for what their ancestors did. And are like, look, I have nothing to do with that. I'm just born into that family and had nothing to do with me. And you're hating that person because of what their ancestor did. And saying you're justified in hating that person because their ancestors did something horrible to your ancestors. It's like that's the mentality that you have. You're blaming someone in someone else's family did who's probably not even alive. Maybe they are alive, but I just know I wouldn't appreciate that if I had a family member in my family, I guess, that did committed some horrible crime, and then I'm still being hated on because I was born to that. They're part of my family, even though I renounce them, even though I don't agree with them, even though I don't live my life that same way, I don't hold the same feelings or morals, and I'm getting hated on still. I wouldn't like that either, personally. I don't know. I feel like this is the last video I'm gonna make on this because there's only so much I can say. I feel like I've said everything I needed to say. I'm not trying to control how other people feel. I can't change how y'all feel. Y'all are gonna hear everything I said and still continue believing what you want to believe because most people, when met with cognitive dissonance, hold on to what they're already held beliefs and viewpoints. But I probably did create a lot of cognitive dissonance for some of y'all, which is why you are mad. Anyways, that's all I have to say. And yeah, I'm not going to apologize for not being racist. I'm just not. I'm not going to apologize for having friends of different races because I just think that's so dumb. It's so dumb. All right, that's all, guys.